I'm Will, and I'm making a game about building a village on an island that is overseen by a series of nasty gods. And lately I've been getting pretty bogged down in the realities of solo game development. As you're about to see, it can be a hell of a lot of work sometimes, and it can be pretty demoralizing. So in this video, you're going to follow me as I try to break out of a metaphorical downward spiral and save myself from a very non-metaphorical, complete and total catastrophic implosion. Okay, that might be being a bit dramatic, but you get the idea. This week, my job is to add a whole bunch of new buildings to the game. And as per usual, I've been pretty optimistic with my time management skills, so we're just going to have to see how it goes. I recently did a pretty huge visual overhaul, and in the process I stripped out a bunch of content, so right now the only things that you can build in the game are like paths, huts, and farms, so it's pretty boring. We've certainly got our work cut out for us. But before I can start getting the buildings themselves in, I need to fix all the broken shit that they rely on. First up, I have to clean up the job system. It works just fine, but this is code that I wrote years ago when I first started the project, and it really hasn't aged well, so I'm gonna gut the system completely and try and clean it up a little bit. And now the villagers can get back to work and I can read the code without experiencing a tension headache. The other thing that I rely heavily on is this visualization system for the relationships between buildings. I use it to show which buildings affect which other buildings, like how a well placed near a farm will increase the amount of food that the farm can produce. Unfortunately, it's in an even worse state than the job system. So this one's going to take some blood, sweat, and tears. I cleaned up the placeholder look and squashed a few of the weird bugs. This one was being caused by each building drawing 2 lines to each other building it was near instead of 1. That one took me a little while to find. I am worried that it might look a little bit too crowded when there are a lot of buildings around, but that can be a problem for another day. Finally, I also cleaned up the pop-up window that appears when you select a building so that you can see all of the details about the work that the villagers are doing in it. You really gotta love those game dev days where you spend all day working on stuff that makes almost no noticeable difference to the gameplay. Especially when you're working on super complicated systems that you wrote ages ago like these ones, it gets pretty overwhelming pretty quickly. That's why I like using a refill to scribble notes while I work. It's a lot faster and way more intuitive than like a note-taking app is, and it helps me to manage the crippling amount of work that I have to do. But on any given day, it means that my notes look like the deranged scribblings of a lunatic. I must have blown through thousands of pages of paper by now, which is a little bit wasteful, but it's fine by me because I spend all day inside anyway, so what do I care if a bunch of orangutans get their houses cut down? On that note, I decided to take a break and get a little bit of air. And there's no better way to get your mind off your work than having to chase after your dog while she bothers people at the park. Now that this project is getting bigger and I'm getting ready to get a Steam page ready, I've had to make some decisions about the game's future. And seeing it all laid out in front of me has made me realize just how daunting of a task solo developing a game can be. A lot of smarter people than me have tried and failed. But if there's one thing I've learned by fudging my way through a university degree that I am, by all accounts, a bit too stupid for, it's that stubborn persistence trumps all.
Home run!
It's pretty crazy how much shit you can get done when you're hitting your stride. I've been working on like a 3D tiling system for placing the paths, and yesterday it was giving me a lot of trouble, but coming back to it today with a fresh set of eyes has really helped. I gotta say, it is a relief to see that one done. I was on a roll, and I figured, why stop there? So I also got the tavern in the game. It's a unique building that improves the happiness of all the nearby dwellings, and the more barkeeps you have working there, the further that happiness will spread. I haven't gotten around to implementing the fire mechanics yet, but for obvious reasons, when I do, this is going to be the most likely building to just spontaneously burst into flames. Now, usually my brain and body completely cease to function by around 5:30, 6 o'clock, but seeing as I'm recording this and putting on the internet, I figured I'd try and impress some strangers and stay up a little bit later than usual to try and get some more work done. And now that I've gotten all the systems in place that go into making the buildings actually work, actually adding the buildings themselves is a pretty straightforward process. So I quickly threw in a couple more. A lightning rod can be built to protect villages and buildings from nearby lightning strikes, which are a pretty common curse that you'll receive when you start upsetting the gods. The library is the first building that you'll build that will generate knowledge, and knowledge is used to research new technologies, but the gods don't really like you turning to science to discover new things, so you've got to be pretty careful with buildings like these. Now, as you can probably see from these models, I am shit at art. I guess it's not that far-fetched of an idea that with all the different hats that you have to wear as a solo game developer, at least one of them just doesn't quite fit right. Honestly, this is not a bad effort. I'm pretty pleased with it. Getting these new buildings in the game really helps to make it feel more like a proper city builder and less just like a random tech demo. So that's one more thing ticked off the list and only about a gazillion more to go. But I guess that's life. Sometimes I struggle to sleep because I'm wondering if I'm ever actually going to finish this game, and if I do finish it, I'm wondering if people are even going to like it. So I have to remind myself that nothing worth doing is easy, and in my head that just automatically means that if something is difficult, then it must be worth doing. And seeing as this is very difficult, I'm almost certainly not making an enormous mistake by throwing myself headfirst at it. As a wise man once said, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So if you want to join me on this journey of self-torture and maybe get to play a finished game one day, I would love it if you subscribe to the channel and left a like on the video. It would help me out a ton, and I promise that if you do, I'll donate all of the proceeds of the game towards saving orangutans. Thank you for watching.